So we now make it to week number 15. And that means a lot of things have happened, but even more things are still going to happen because there are teams that are obviously jockeying for position. We just saw, as I saw coming. A lot of people will say they didn't see it coming. I'll admit I did see coming. I was talking to my friend Mark, and I had predicted to him that the number one fantasy running back this week would be James Cook. And I didn't see Josh Allen only passing for like 92 or whatever yards. Or no, actually, that was Dak who had like 134 yards. I think Allen had even fewer yards than that, but that didn't matter. They were just able to run the ball at will, and I saw that coming. And I talked about it. I cut a video preview earlier talking about how I thought these games would turn out. And I told everyone who would listen that I thought Dallas lacked toughness. And I was proven correct. They're a good defense, but not a tough defense. And as long as they get to rush the passer, Dallas will be a terrific defense. But with the loss of Jonathan Hankins, the interior of their defense went from being, I would say, above average to poor. They lack interior size, and they lack people who really want to defend the run, quite frankly. They want to rush the passer as a defense. They want to get their hands on footballs. They want to get interceptions. But do they want to stop the run? Not really. It's not in their DNA as a defense. And if you want to beat them and beat them up, you've seen how to do it. They were, I won't say lucky, but they were somewhat fortunate in that when they faced the Eagles are in their third game against a good team in the 13-day period. And each one of those teams that the Eagles faced had a significant rest advantage over the Eagles. Now you see with both teams having the same amount of rest and Dallas not playing in their cozy home environment, what their weaknesses are. Now, Dallas, just like the Eagles aren't as bad as they looked against the 49ers in Dallas, Dallas isn't as bad as they looked against the Bills, but they also aren't as good as they looked against the Eagles. They are somewhere between the two, which is what I've been telling people. So people who think that Dallas is a Super Bowl contender, I've been saying no all along. I don't believe it. And I'm not going to believe it unless they change the middle of their defense, the heart of their defense, the interior of their defense, the edges of their defense, the corners, the pass rushers, magnificent. The middle of their defense, not so much. And this will be their bugaboo. The next time they see the Eagles, watch for the Eagles to run the ball right up the gut against them unless they change some things. Other games of interest and of note, we got to see a healthy-ish Derek Carr go out and have a very good game. And the Saints are now positioned. When they face the Atlanta Falcons, as I said earlier, that'll be essentially a play-in game. The winner of that in a couple of weeks of that Falcons and Saints game is a team that's headed to the playoffs. And whether or not these are teams that are going to go deep into the playoffs or not, these are playoff teams. So, and once you're in the playoffs, as anything can happen. Remember the Beastquake game? That was a team that went 6-8, I believe, or 7-9. That was a 7-9 team that went in and won that Beastquake game. Right now, they won the West with 7-9. And so the New Orleans Saints, despite having a much better record, were the team that had to fly out to them. And once again, we'll never forget. All of us who saw that game will remember what Marshawn Lynch did. But if you make the playoffs, anything can happen. We've just seen what the Browns have done. The Browns are exactly the kind of team you don't want to face in the playoffs. They have nothing to lose. They have a terrific defense. They're a team. We just saw what just happened to the Cowboys. That's another team that can just run the ball down your throat all day long. Now, what hurts them a little bit is they've missed a lot of their best offensive linemen have missed games recently. So they need to get healthy on their offensive line. But despite lacking some of their best offensive linemen, they're still being a productive offense. Joe Flacco is playing with a pep in his step, right, that you might not expect from a man of his vintage. And he still has one of the stronger arms in the league. He's always had a strong arm. So that's a team to watch out for if they make it into the playoffs. And right now they're positioned they're in a good spot. They basically need to, if they win 2 out of their last 3 games, that's a team that I think ends up in the playoffs. And once again, will not be a fun team to face. And the last thing I'll mention, and then I'm going to have some questions for Zennie. The last thing I will mention, there are certain teams that start to hit their stride at the right time. Everyone's been somewhat down on the Chiefs. Mark my words. Mark my words. Do not be surprised if the Chiefs start to put it together and get hot and close out strong and end up 12-5. So, Zennie, we've had a very, very, very interesting week to this point. What are some of your impressions, and what have you seen thus far?
Oh, well, the Giants went into a game with the Saints almost like they negotiated the outcome with the Saints. Said, hey, we'll deliberately not call short passes so that we'll let your pass rush get to our guy so that they can basically do I don't know what that means, but that gesture.
It's like it goes with a couple of words you might hear in Italian, but usually it's letting someone know, we got this, right? It's like, oh, I'm on that. Like this is our thing. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and it seemed like they really went into a back room and said, okay, this is going to be the game. This is what we're going to do. And we're going to put an end to this so that we can stop people complaining about it. And that's honestly what it looked like, because, I mean, how else to explain why Mike Kafka, who was the offensive coordinator for the Giants, will go into the Monday Night Football game, call short passes, call passes that were quick rhythm, and on balance have a pretty good game plan, good enough to win.
Sure.
And then completely eschew that, just toss it out and go to a deeper approach against a team that has arguably some of the fastest and better defensive linemen in the league.
And Jesus, I'm going to answer your question in a second, Jesus.
If I may. And then not adjust it. Okay.
So two things, and I noticed the same things you noticed. Shout out to Mike Kafka, proud graduate of Northwestern University. He is, I got a chance to watch him in person. My sister is a graduate of Northwestern, and of course I live here in Chicago, so I catch a couple of Northwestern games every year. So things that I noticed, I thought that the return of Darren Waller, and I was right about a lot of things this week. I was wrong, way wrong about a couple, and one of the things I was wrong about was Darren Waller. I thought Darren Waller would come back with a bit of a bang, and that they would line him up, in various places, and that he was going to be running crossers to death and all that good stuff. And they did not use him. Now, maybe it's just because he's not back up to speed, able to play, as many snaps as they want. But I really thought that'd be a big part of their game plan. It was not. Now, their receiving core is not great, as you know. But the thing that they usually are good at is run after catch. Wan'Dale Robinson is not very big, and he's slightly above average speed, but he's terrific. That sort of punt returner approach to having the ball in his hands. So if you get the ball in his hands, he can make people miss and make some things happen. Darren Waller is one of the most athletic tight ends in football. Once again, not 100%, I guess, fully. But I thought that those two players would get lots of short passes, like you said, and then have an opportunity to do something with it. I believe that they might have been reacting to maybe also what the Saints have done sometimes against teams that throw the ball short a lot, is jump those routes. And I don't know if they were just afraid of that for some reason, but yeah, I noticed it as well. I think,
if you have organizations you're facing and the defenders you believe are going to jump the route, then what you do is you use bunch patterns and you throw to the inside wing receiver on a flat while you have the two receivers outside him, the wing, and then the split end run a circle, or some people call a wheel route, and then a fly pattern, respectively, which essentially delays the coverage of the receiver of the defender that's going to be over you, because chances are if you're inside, you're not going to have that person right on you, and if they are, they're going to blitz and it's curtains.
Right, but isn't the issue with that is that both those routes take a while to develop?
No, it doesn't, because again, if you think about what I'm telling you, it's a triangle, and so punch, and so the inside wing is going straight out to the flat along the line of scrimmage. That takes no time flat. Okay, excuse the pun.
Sure.
And so all the quarterback is to do is to take the shotgun, snap, you take the ball, you quite literally can throw this without a hitch step because by the time the ball is out, the receiver should already be into their route and the flag. Okay. And
Sure.
your defender has to react to two things. First of all, you running that route so quickly. And secondly, they have to maneuver around the traffic to get to you. All right. And that space automatically produces the room the receiver needs to pick up some yards. Now, and that works time and time again. The only time it doesn't work is if the defense knows it's coming and therefore they've stationed a quarterback in that flat out there waiting for you to come that way.
Right.
And such, or, knowing that.
Right. A la Malcolm Butler in that very famous goal line play in the Super Bowl.
Right. Yeah. Right.
So,
point is, Bill, is that they don't know how. And I'm talking about the Giants. I'm not going to say they don't know how, but I'm only going by what I saw. They weren't cognizant of the need to design patterns that produce yards after the catch. Neither were the Bills. You talked about the Bills and the Cowboys. I'm not the Bills. I'm sorry, the Cowboys. The Cowboys have constant 5-yard turnarounds.
Right.
But the trouble is, where are the slants? Where are the patterns that produce yards after the catch? So
they ran some slants too, Ferguson, but I agree they certainly could have done more of that. I just want to make sure you answer some of Jesus's questions. Jesus, the reason that the Niners receivers are so wide open is two things. One is they're sudden individuals. They're guys who change direction very well. Two, they're schemed open. We talk about this constantly, and Zennie talks about it constantly. How do you create openness? Now, you can have guys who just flat out beat their man, right? That happens. But if you're not just counting on someone to just flat out beat their man, you can just create that openness. First of all, they are a dominant run team. And so you have a tendency as a defense to be first worried about that run because they will kill you if you don't stop the run. They won't have to throw the football. But when they do throw the football, there's always lots of things going on with the shift in motion to try to create opportunities. And then they run a lot of things that either use spacing and levels that force you open, especially if it's zone. They are amazing at attacking zone and very, very, very good against man. Like they don't have a weakness really, but zone particularly, they will pick you apart. So, I mean, look at what George Kittle does, right? And if you try to take Kittle away, now you've got to worry about Brandon Ayuk. And then Brandon Ayuk, who leads the NFL in yards per reception. Okay, so now you're keeping someone deep. You're keeping a deep defender, maybe a single high safety to try to take him away. Well, so now that means that the seams are going to be open. Like something's going to be open, right? There's no such thing. You can't take everything away. Trust me, I've been there. I played defense. That was where I played. But you have to make your choice, and you choose the thing that you think is the most dangerous, right? And you take that thing away. And most people choose McCaffrey, right? Understandably. Most people say we're worried most about that kid who wears number 23. And they say we're going to have people in and out. We're going to have a linebacker underneath. We're going to have a safety or a corner assigned to him also. And that means if Deebo Samuel beats his man and there's a safety shading over towards McCaffrey and one guy's running this way and one guy's running that way, you can't double more than one person. Or you can't double more than you can double two theoretically, but at that point you're really in trouble because now you've got at least one person running wide open, and if somebody beats somebody, you could have potentially two people running wide open in your defense, and then the other. Well, Robert Saleh to the Chargers if he gets fired. I don't think the Chargers want to go defensive minded again. Quite frankly, Jesus, I think they feel like they touched the hot stove already with their current. Well, most recent head coach in Brandon Staley. I'll be shocked if they don't look for a more offensive-minded head coach. So I don't think Saleh's headed that way. And Justin Fields is not headed to the Lions. Rams, slightly more likely, but the Rams still have a fair amount of money for one more year invested in John Matthew Stafford. So if they do go quarterback, I mean, of course, Fields is still on his rookie deal, so I guess they can make that work. But I don't think that's where he's headed. I think if the Bears move on from him, and that's still a big if, then I think it's more likely. I mean, it's not a team most likely in their own division, first of all, Jesus. But if it is a team that's at least, let's just say NFC first, NFC teams I could see literally deciding to give up what you have to give up, because Fields is not coming cheaply. You're getting, because of how inexpensive he is, they're going to want a fair amount back. So you're going to have to give back a draft pick, most likely at least a second rounder, or a third rounder and a player, or multiple thirds, right? Something like that. Or maybe a pick swap and a second or something like that. And I could see, look at the teams that I think are more likely. I mean, the Jets are a team that is going to do something at quarterback. They have 1, maybe 2 more years in Rodgers. If they were sold on Zach Wilson, we never would have known Tim Boyle's name, right? So they're not sold on Zach Wilson. And they can't spend a lot of money at the quarterback position because they are already spending a lot of money at the quarterback position. That's a team that could make sense. If they think that they have a short window anyway, they're going to care less about draft picks than a team that's building for long term. Another team that I think might get involved if there is a market for Justin Fields, and I mean there would be one if the Bears decided to allow one there to exist. If for some reason Tampa Bay doesn't stick with Baker Mayfield, which they'd be smart to do in my opinion, but let's just say they decide they want to build more for the future, I could see them being involved in that market as well. They're going to have to move on from some people anyway. Probably Mike Evans is on his way out the door. Maybe they do a deal where they essentially do almost like a sign and trade with that regarding Evans. They take that dead cap hit in exchange for you sending them a pick back, probably a later round pick. You get, you get Fields and Trask. I mean, they get Fields, you get Trask. They send you an earlier pick, you send them a later round pick, something like that. And defenders biting. Well, here's the thing. Always, I'm once again defensive. I played defensive back. You always have to honor the first movement, but you can't be looking at the upper body. You can't look at the hands or the head. You have to look at essentially around the belt buckle, right? Because you can feint a little bit with your belt buckle, but not that much, right? So if you keep good eye discipline as a defender, you shouldn't be that much out of position as a defensive back.
And by the way, Sunday Night Football is getting ready to start. Just a note: AFC North, AFC South. I can't zoom in on this camera to bring you the graphic they have up, so I just read it off to you. Yep. AFC North, Ravens record is 10-3, yep. Browns 9-5, Bengals 8-6, Steelers are 7-7. Now, yep. The Jaguars, whom the Ravens play, are at 8-5. Behind them, by a hair, are the Colts at 8-6. Yep. The Texans are also at 8-6. The Titans are at 5-9. Talk about with the exception of the Titans, a log jam. It was really interestingly scintillating that the Titans lost that game. It sort of cleared them out of the way to set up the real battle. I want to make a comment, by the way, about the Saints, if I may. This was Derek Carr's best game the entire season. And what they did, I haven't looked at the entire all 22, but from what I was able to see, it looked like they finally had solved the riddle of, for them at least, incorporating the kind of passes I've been talking about. Short passes that are of an explosive nature, or precise play calls that, for example, have Derek Carr looking to the left, but the tight end is running a fly pattern on the right, and the outside slot guy is running a wheel route, a play they never designed before, but it was clearly the clear intent was to get rid of the safety, and did. And Derek Carr hit Juwan Johnson for a touchdown. That was one of the prettiest plays I've ever seen him involved in his entire career, design-wise. And that includes a lot of, material. But But the problem is, this goes back to my initial conversation or my initial comment that the Saints and the Giants had this pregame meeting where they basically made a deal to to stop all the nicknames and everything else. I'm only joking half. Well, I believe part of it. If you buy the whole scripting idea, but it is quite clear. I don't know who it was. I think it was Ronald Curry that was slapping five with Derek Carr after that touchdown. They clearly figured out a way to solve the riddle of designing a ball control passing offense during the season that is mates with what Carr is used to and did in Oakland and Las Vegas. But if you think about it, also is a good offense for Jameis Winston because his better days were actually with Sean Payton's version of that. So now, does that mean that the Saints will win the division? Maybe. They have the Bucks. What does it mean? It means that arguably they're peaking offensively at the right time. That's what it looks like. Now, and this is where I want your comment, Bill. I think that for the second week in a row, the Saints got away with one because they didn't have a coach. They were faced with a coaching staff that quite literally was asleep at the wheel. I'm talking about the Giants, both offensively and defensively. I mean, what a Payusa. And, to steal the Jar Jar Binks line. What do you think, Bill?
Well, the Giants have a lot of issues. And, I mean, coaching is one of them. But, I mean, they've got problems with the way that roster is constructed. They don't have an elite defensive player at all. They don't have one. Not one. Anywhere. Like, think of it, all the teams in the NFL. It's hard to name teams that don't have a single guy who's even a contender for the Pro Bowl, right? They don't have a single guy anywhere on that defense. You think, oh my God, how do we stop him? So Bobby Okereke is a good player, but, not a guy that you stay up nights worried about. So that's one of their problems, right? I mean, Kayvon Thibodeau is probably the closest to it, and he's not there yet, right? He could get there, and he still needs a partner. All the great pass rushers, not all, most of the great pass rushers, Max Crosby excluded, have at least somebody to take some of the pressure off them. Max Crosby doesn't need it. He's just amazing. But most guys don't play with his level of effort. I mean, he plays almost every snap and gives everything every snap. He's a sui generis, one of one. But they don't have the person that's there to help Kit Thibodeau, and he's not there yet. Like, and maybe in another year, maybe two, he gets to that elite level, but he's not elite yet. He's good. He's one of maybe two or three good players on defense, and then a lot of the other guys on defense shouldn't be starters. On offense, some of their best players are hurt, and they just got Waller back and didn't really use him yet. Like, they have problems everywhere. Their offensive line is bad. Like, coaching can. I mean, I know you love thinking that coaching can cover over everything, but if you don't have offensive linemen that can get movement, you don't have a quarterback that you really trust, you don't have receivers that are truly dynamic. They finally got Waller back. They didn't really use him much. So maybe that's just him getting back into shape or whatever, but hopefully they'll start using him more. They don't have someone who is going to generate turnovers on defense. They don't have a ball hawk anywhere on that defense. There's all the things that you look for to help you even the playing field if you're weak in one area. They don't have that either. Like, normally a team says, well, we're bad against the run, but, right? Like, the Cowboys aren't great against the run, but they are fantastic pass rush, and they're great at getting their hands on the ball and intercepting the ball. You can't say that about the Giants. They don't intercept the ball. They don't generate turnovers. They don't stop the run. They don't stop the pass.
Sort of laid out the material for how schematically a good offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator approaches a game. As long as there are coaches who are tasked with, or anybody, I say anybody because in the old days, the quarterbacks quite literally would draw plays up in the dirt sometimes, and then it came Tom Landry. But my point is, and then I'm going to have to end my part of it because the game started.
Yeah, we'll close it out in a minute anyway. And I'll answer one or two more of Jesus' questions, and we'll close out.
Oh, okay. But my point is that there's a lot, and I think Tom Brady hit on it. There's a lot of bad offensive passing coaching around, a lot of it, and it's now specify what bad is. Bad is not designing your pattern so it fits the footwork. It bad is not designing plays that pay attention to the fact that your defenders are too quick and your quarterback's not getting the protection they need in terms of blocking, so you shorten the patterns. Uh, just like now we're watching Jacksonville and their first pass, Trevor Lawrence, it was a very questionable. I don't know if they were trying back shoulder or what, but the timing of it was bad. His footwork was bad. It was an example of what I'm talking about, and I didn't have to go far to point it out. They had the nice motion idea, and that's the whole point. A lot of them have, interesting, like, yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Why are they having him come back inside like that and even run that pattern to begin with? It just the timing is bad, and so here we are with second and with 3rd and 4, and they have him going 2 back, and he's about to get sacked, but he shovels it off and just barely gets the first down based on a.
Well, just short of the first down. He probably about half yard short.
Well, he actually got. They gave him 1st and 10, I think.
Did they? No,
Yeah.
they didn't.
Yeah, it was a 4 yard. They only needed 4 yards, unless of course we're watching.
The pass to Rashad Bateman. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, you may be ahead of me game wise. I don't know. I'm at the 13-minute and 38-second mark. Where are you?
Oh, you're way back. Okay. Yeah, I'm at 9 minutes and 51 seconds. Okay, so yeah, you're further back.
Holy time shift, Batman. Anyway.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So anyway, but my point is that, there's so much sloppy, uncoordinated play design that you get in a situation where they say, "Oh well, he can salvage this play," and I'm thinking, how many times have you heard that, Bill? Right? And I think salvage this play now means save a bad offensive coordinator's career because they don't understand how to properly design a play. And there are people who did, like Bill Walsh, for example, or the coach of.
Kyle Shanahan comes to mind if you want to be a little more modern than that. There's still some guys out there getting it done.
I was thinking more like Don Coryell in St. Louis and his approach. I'm not really a Shanahan fan, and the reason I'm not is because I believe that you need a specific skill set to run that properly. And defensively, I think a good 46 defense could kill it. I really do. I'd love to scheme that up personally because I just consider it almost fraudulent. I'm just sorry. I think it's representative. I'm glad they're, I love the Niners and everything else, but I'm just not quick with them. I'm not ready to anoint them.
Oh, I'm not ready to anoint them either, but I'm saying you can't dispute that he's an extremely effective play designer. His quarterback is number 1 in yards per pass attempt. The running back is number 1 in yards per carry. Their top receivers are number 1 at their position. The number 1 tight end in yards per reception is Kittle. The number 1 wide receiver in yards per reception is Brandon Ayuk. They have essentially the quadruple crown in offense.
How many defenses are playing 46? None.
Well, nobody's playing at base anymore because it was your West Coast offense that basically cut it up so badly they had to stop.
Well, actually, that's not true.
Partially that.
In fact, the Bears actually adjusted to that the second time they faced the Niners after the Super Bowl, and they had an exotic triangle defense that they threw out against it because Buddy Ryan was that kind of schemer. And today, you don't have that anymore. You've got this constant regurgitation of the Rams the Rams defense that had the 2 down linemen and the defensive ends essentially playing linebacker. That Fred, I forgot Fred's name. He was defensive coordinator for the Rams several years ago, perfected, and then it became a league standard. It spread like a virus, and you see it today.
Well, we're seeing that classic Seattle style cover 3 in this game is what we're seeing right now on from the Jaguars defense.
In terms of watch how the line people line up. The tackles are over the guards or just slightly outside of them. The ends are really not traditional ends, right? And you don't see a side linebacker anymore. You don't see a 6x1, and yet a 6x1 would murder those offenses. I mean, just it wouldn't be funny, okay? Because no one's used to that kind of pressure or those combinations that a standard 4-3 can produce, and with overshifts and undershifts and everything else. You could say, yeah, they did that because of the past. My argument is they become too loose at it. They've given up a lot to offenses, created giant bubble areas, and it's to the detriment of the defense. And I just think it's awful. Absolutely awful.
A couple more of Jesus's questions. Is Jake Brown a legit starter? Jake Browning is a starter in the right situation, right? The term system quarterback, all quarterbacks are system quarterbacks. Joe Montana said, I'm a system quarterback. So every quarterback is a system quarterback. Every quarterback plays in a system, and some are better suited to some systems than others. Joe Montana, as great as he was, would not have thrived the same way if he played in the Steelers' offensive system, right? I mean, not every system fits every quarterback. But if Jake Browning's in a system where the ball comes out quickly, where it's dependent on him being able to see things, he's got a quick release, he sees things quickly, he's a good decision maker. If you're going to ask him to do what Josh Allen does, he's not going to succeed because he can't do what Josh Allen does. Ask him to do what Jake Browning does well, he'll succeed. I mean, that's true of any quarterback. So I sort of reject the label system quarterback because all systems are system quarterbacks.
But you know, it makes me think of something else. You know, we have a tendency, like I watched the Ravens and watched the motion across, and Lamar going back to throw, looking left, coming back right. Now he's running. He gets himself set. And wow, what a nice completion for first down. But as I think about and watch this unfold, remember how the Cowboys popularized, really arguably perfected, shifting of the running backs behind the backfield and the up and down movement of the line?
Right. Yep.
Okay. Well, you've never seen the receiver equivalent of that. In other words, you'll see a 4x1. If I say 4x1, you have some idea what that means. But you don't see an organization shifting from one kind of 4x1 formation to another to remove a tendency. And that's been in my head for some time. I started to put it in my Eagle offense playbook, but I have another first down. I have another role for that one. And my point is that we're way behind. Anyway, I need to wrap up here. So.
Yep. So I'm going to answer Jesus' last two questions so we can close out.
Okay.
The Cowboys need an RB1 pause number. Well, Pollard's fine. I mean, that's not the Cowboys' issue. Now, their two best offensive linemen got beaten badly, right? The two guys on the left had bad games. Both Tyler Smith and from USC, Tyron. Can't remember his last name, but both of them had bad games, and their running game had to be shelved pretty quickly because they were so far behind. So that's not on Pollard. Pollard's fine. They want to run the football, and they run the football well enough. That's not their issue. That's not their biggest issue. Their biggest issue, that what's exposed in this game once again, is their ability to stop or lack ability to stop the run. And if Lamar's setting his feet, Lamar has always been jittery in terms of what he does with his feet. He's improved at times, but he needs to more consistently have his feet better organized. And Lamar has a deep running back group. Keaton Mitchell is a budding star. They'll have the decision to make about JK. And he's been hurt a lot, but they have a talent. The Gus Bus. They have a talented group of running backs. That's not their issue either. They run the ball well. They're one of the better running teams in the NFL. So no, they might draft another running back just because it's a position where you always want to get young. You have younger players, but that's not what's wrong with that team. They still need one more wide receiver, really. They have found the guy who should be their number 2. And maybe Rashad Bateman stays healthy and becomes the number 1, but they have in Zay Flowers the guy that will be their number 2. They're that super active little explosive slot receiver. If they can add a true number 1, a true X type to go with him, now they've got something going. But yeah, they're fine at running back. And are they the future? They're the present. Josh Allen is one of the better running backs. He's the present. We just saw what, Pat Mahomes isn't a freak athlete, but he's certainly a guy that uses the mobility to create big plays. Obviously we talked about Lamar. We talked about Kyler Murray. We talked about Russell, Carrington, Wilson. It's not the future, it's the present, Jesus. This has been established for some time. The Ravens need to run more. The Ravens will run plenty, I promise you. The Ravens, I promise you will not be dissatisfied with the number. When this game's over, I promise you the Ravens will be between 28 and they'll be between 28 and 35 runs. I promise you before the game's over. They'll get between that 28 to 35 runs. Promise you.
And for 12 right now.
They run the ball plenty. They're one of the few teams that really runs the ball even close to half the time still is the Ravens. They'll run the ball enough. Trust me, Jesus.
Thank you, Bill. Yeah. Bill? Did I lose you?
I'm just trying to see I can't quite understand Jesus' last question. There have always been good athletes at the quarterback position. They just aren't moving to other positions, Jesus. So Brian Mitchell, right? Tremendous return man and running back, was a terrific dual threat quarterback in college. But they moved him because he was short and black. There's a long list of guys. Ken Riley was a terrific quarterback. He got moved from quarterback to cornerback, which he never played before in his life before he gets to an NFL camp because he was black. There's a long list of guys I could do. Raphael Cherry who played safety with Washington, was a fantastic quarterback in college, got moved to safety because he was black. So for a long time, there were lots of athletic quarterbacks, Jesus. He doesn't get a chance to play quarterback in the NFL. Now they aren't moving these guys to other positions. That's the only thing that's changed. I mean, Kyler Murray's dad, Kevin Mitchell, was a terrific athletic quarterback. Got drafted, great all-around athlete, got drafted by the Cubs, played minor league baseball for the Cubs, but was a great quarterback at Texas A&M, got moved. Well, not getting it moved. They tried to move him. He said, no, I declined, and ended up playing baseball for a little while. Played a little bit of football up north in Canada as well, but once again, because he's black. So what's changed is they just don't move those guys to other positions. They tried to move Warren Moon to wide receiver, Jesus.
I've got to.
Yep. Well, I'm done as well. Once again, everybody, please like and subscribe.
Hey, Jesus. Merry Christmas, by the way. And keep the questions coming. Yeah, thank you. It was very valuable. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Sir Bill of Carroll.
My pleasure, sir. We'll see you and do this again in